Hello aqua friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and welcome to day 4 of my mini painting series for the summer. So we got this cool shark we're going to do here. Super simple, very easy for beginners, and there's a high contrast with the light behind the shark. So much fun. So let's get started. Instead of masking out the shark, I decided that since the shark is going to be darker anyways, that we didn't need to mask him out. We're going to be working wet on wet. I do have phthalo blue red shade in my palette, and I'm putting in that color quite graciously. I do want a high contrast. I need it to be quite blue, but I'm losing my light here. So if that happens, no big deal. With a damp brush or wet brush, at this point you can lift off some of that paint and we are back to having that bright spot. Now, while it's still wet, you do want to add in some darker blues, and for this I am using some indigo with neutral tint, and I'm really trying to get that halo effect around the shark. Now, if you do have some harsh brush lines on the shark itself, you could just take a wet brush to soften those out, which I just did. So I'm going to keep going around until my paper is drying too much and I can't add any more color. So before the paper dries completely, I do love to spray the paper. I am using a toothbrush so I get some very fine water droplets to kind of represent the bubbles that I see in the reference photo. You're going to let that whole thing dry, and then our second layer is just going to be the shark. So a very simple 2-layer painting, folks. You do want to take your time and wet the shark really, really well. So I did take a couple of minutes here. Of course, I sped up the camera for you guys, but you're going to wet him with just water initially. Your sharks should be glistening with water, like you can see with my picture here, before you start putting the color on. So he's nice and wet. I'm basically using some neutral tint mixed with my indigo. And we're getting some nice color here. Just going to go over. Basically, you're just painting in the lines, the sketch lines of the shark. There are some darker areas along the tip of his nose and on some of his fins. So I'm getting that in there while your paper is still wet. So there is a time issue. Your paper is constantly drying. So you do need to get those darker areas in there. If your paper dries too much, you can always let your paper dry completely and then re-wet it, and then continue with the shadows around your shark. My last little bits here, sorry my big head's getting in the way, is just getting in the shadows of his mouth in there, trying to portray some teeth in there and getting it a little darker right in the middle. You're going to let your whole paper dry, and then in the reference photo you'll see there are some highlights on the side flank of him that I just added with a jelly pen. Remove the tape. You guys just created a masterpiece. Congratulations. Thanks for watching. See you next time.